Ever since the Turtles and Master Splinter had their last showdown with the Shredder, Leonardo had changed, and not exactly for the better. He had become moody, distant, and less like the Leonardo he once was. When you were told about what happened during their last confrontation with their old nemesis, the very thought of losing them, including Leonardo, scared you the most. But thankfully, they were alright, except for the fact that they had some broken bones and other injuries, plus Leonardo lost a bit of his shell when Karai had stabbed him. Leonardo, however, blamed himself for not being able to save everyone when they needed him the most. Since then, he's been training himself and his brothers pretty hard, not to mention this was causing a huge strain in your relationship. You and Leonardo have been together for many months, and at first everything was great until recently. It was like the romance disappeared along with the Leonardo you used to know. Master Splinter has been trying his best to get through to him as well. At some point, he invited Usagi and his friend Janusik for a visit. Usagi had talked it out with the troubled Terrapin, but barely managed to scratch the surface. You tried countless times to talk to him yourself, but he would either deny it or just tell you to drop it. Eventually, it was almost like you two were strangers. For a while, you thought about what to do. In the end, you decided it was probably best for you two to take a break until things worked out. Today, you came into the lair to have a talk with Leonardo. You noticed the turtles had finished their training for a couple hours ago, but Leonardo had been practicing with his katana since you arrived. You took a deep breath and began to walk toward him. This is probably one of the hardest things you've ever had to do in your life. When you were several feet away, you spoke. Leonardo, we need to talk. Later, Leonardo huffed as he took another swing with his sword. No. Now, you said sternly. Leonardo stopped and placed his sword back into its sheath. What is it? Leo, you paused. I've been thinking about us lately, and I really think we should take a break. Leonardo's eyes widened a bit. What? Why? You haven't been acting like yourself lately. I mean, you've changed. What's wrong? I've told you 100 times. Nothing's wrong. I'm just fine, he growled. You're not fooling anybody with that new attitude. Leonardo glared at you slightly. My attitude? As the argument between you two went on, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo involuntarily listened in on the feud that was taking place. Even Master Splinter could hear it from his room. He had been in a deep meditation for a while, but his concentration was lost in the sounds of you and his son's rising argument. Yeah, ever since you guys defeated the Shredder, you've been so withdrawn into yourself, you've become a different person. You paused and sighed. Look, I love you, but it's like I don't even know you anymore. I haven't changed. I've just been thinking about what I could have done at that moment. What could you have possibly done? You can't change the past, Leo. You need to stop worrying about what you could or couldn't have done differently. You weren't there. You won't understand what it takes to be a leader. I may not be a leader, but that doesn't mean I have any idea of what you go through every single time. But what I don't understand is why you keep doing this to yourself. You know what? You need to stop bothering me about this. What? I'm trying to help you through this, and all you've done is shut me out. I can handle this on my own. I don't need your help. You know what? I'm done. I'm just done. Fine. Fine. With that, you turned around and left the lair, tears stinging in the corners of your eyes as you stormed off. Leo was about to follow you, but stopped himself when he pounded his fist under the stone pillar. The rest of the turtles thought it would be best not to say anything at this moment, while Master Splinter slowly shook his head. You went home, headed straight to your room, crouched into bed crying into your pillow. As far as you could tell, it was pretty much over between you two. You didn't go back to the lair for a few days. You just needed time to calm down and think. After that, you finally decided to go back and try to talk to Leonardo again. However, when you got into the lair, Leonardo was gone. The Master Splinter informed you that he sent Leonardo to Japan to train with someone called the Ancient One. From what he told you, the Ancient One not only trained Hamato Yoshi many years ago, but he was also Yoshi's adopted father. Part of you felt guilty about the argument you two had, but another part of you said it was probably for the best. For days, you barely ate anything or had a good night's sleep. Days later, Master Splinter invited you to the lair to talk over some tea. You sat down in front of Master Splinter as he poured you a cup of tea, then himself. You both waited for your tea to cool down a little before taking a drink. How have you been? Master Splinter asked as he placed down his cup. You took a small sip of your tea and sighed a little. I guess you can say that I'm still not over it, but I'm coping. We all are. We could not help but overhear the argument between you and Leonardo. You lowered your gaze to your teacup. I'm sorry you and the guys had to hear all that. It is all right. I know you were trying to reach him, but there are limits to what we can and cannot do for the ones we care about. I know, but why do I feel so bad? You felt Master Splinter's hand on your shoulder. Do not worry, child. Healing takes time for all wounds. True, but I miss him. I miss him too. I miss him too, child. In Japan, it's been 3 weeks since Leonardo began his training with the Ancient One. He had finally come to terms with himself and his inner demons. At the moment, he was in the courtyard meditating. He tried to clear his mind, but his thoughts were focused on you. He thought about when you two first met, hanging out, asking you on a date, first kiss, when he first said I love you, the first time you two spoke to each other. Deep down, Leonardo regretted snapping at you like that. After he accidentally injured Master Splinter during a training exercise, he was sent away to Japan for his training. Leonardo sighed. He didn't even have time to say goodbye, let alone apologize. He was so deep in thought he couldn't even hear the Ancient One walk up behind him. Something troubling you, kumquat? The Ancient One asked. Leonardo couldn't help but roll his eyes at the nickname the Ancient One had given him when they met, but for now he decided to go along with it for the time being. Also, he wasn't expecting the Ancient One to be a short, fat man with an attitude of his own. The Terrapin turned his head to face his sensei. Well, before Master Splinter sent me here, I had an argument with this girl, Leonardo said. Ah, she sounds very special to you. Yeah, she was, or wish she was still, my girlfriend. I don't know anymore. You don't know? Either she is or she isn't. Which one? Well, I guess you can say things haven't been going very smoothly between us ever since we defeated the Shredder. I know now that she was trying to help me, but all I did was push her away. Love's a very complicated thing, Leonardo. I know, Sensei. The Ancient One stroked his beard for a minute. But you know, she must have really loved you enough to have stuck by you during your inner turmoil. And if she really feels the same way, she'd be waiting for your return. I guess you're right. How? He placed his hand on his head when the Ancient One smacked him. Of course I am. Now back to your training, he said before he walked off. Leonardo got up on his feet and followed along. Back in New York, it had been 2.5 months before when Leonardo went away for his training. You didn't go to the lair as often as you used to, mainly because there are too many memories of you and Leonardo. The rest of the turtles tried to comfort you, however, they could, but only once in a while. One of them would accidentally mention Leonardo like he was still around. Of course, you've forgiven the little slip-up and try to continue on with your life, but you still missed him very much. One day you're about to drop in for a visit, but you try to call them to see what was up, you get the dead tone. At first you thought the battery might have died, but you tried the other phones. It was the same thing. For some reason, it felt like something was wrong. You tried calling the turtles several times for an hour, but all you heard were dead tones. At this point, you were being very worried. You quickly called up April at the antique shop. It rang twice before she picked up. Hello, second time around antiques. This is April. April, I've been trying to call the turtles for a while, but I'm not getting any response, you said. She hesitated for a couple seconds. I think you better come over to the shop. You could tell by the sound of her voice something was bothering her. April, what's wrong? I think it's best if I told you in person. Meet me there at closing time, okay? Sure. I'll see you later, you replied before you hang up. You arrived at April's antique shop within a few minutes and came. She was in the middle of closing shop for the day. When she saw you coming in, she stopped what she was doing and walked over to you. Well, I'm here. What is it? You asked. April didn't say anything at first, but she went behind the register. Cry came by earlier and showed me this. She pulled out the scented sign that said, Sweet, Sweet Sewer. You recognized it right away. It was a plaque they had hanging on the wall in their home. You slowly started to shake your head. No, it can't be. Yes, I'm so sorry. Cry came in and told me the turtles are gone. You gasped as you placed your hand over your mouth and your body began to shiver slightly. April walked over around the checkout and gave you a hug. Why is this happening? You thought as you returned the hug. April, I just don't believe it. I don't want to believe it either, but April trailed off, not sure what else to say, then released you from the hug. Are you going to tell Casey? I'll tell him later, but are you going to be okay? Yeah, I'll be fine, you lied. Actually, you were still in shock over the sudden turn of events. I just need to go home. I understand. Be safe. All right. Before you went out through the door, you turned back to April. Oh, one more thing. In case anything comes up, will you let me know? She nodded. Okay. After that, you returned home and sat in your room to settle down your thoughts. You waited for hours, then a day for something to come up, but so far, nothing. You didn't want to believe they were gone. You knew they were stronger than that. First, Leo left for Japan, and now this happened. You couldn't help but think how Leonardo would react to finding out his brothers and his master were taken by Karai. Deep down, you wanted everything to be okay. You immediately snapped out your own thoughts when your cell phone rang. You quickly picked it up and answered. Hello? Hey, I've got good news. The turtles in Master Splinter are alive. You felt like a huge weight had lifted. That's great news. How are they? They're fine, but that's not all. Leo's back. You felt your heart skip a beat. Are you serious? Yeah, he came back last night. He would have mentioned it to you sooner, but he had to find everyone first. Oh, okay. I was getting really worried there, you said, trying to catch your breath for the sudden excitement. You and me both. By the way, Leo said he wanted to talk to you. Huh? Really? Yeah, he said you'd meet him in front of the reservoir building and the lake in Central Park at 6 o'clock this evening. All right, got it. Bye, you said before you hung up the phone. Since it was already early afternoon, you had plenty of time to shower and get ready yourself. When 5:30 came around, you grabbed your coat and left. After a little while, you arrived at the lake and walked toward the old reservoir pump station. You looked around the sceneries, you waited for Leonardo to show up. You were nervous. You wrapped up in your own thoughts. You almost didn't notice the blue branded turret pin standing several feet behind you. Hey, you turned around and saw him. Leonardo. His expression was warmer and relaxed with a hint of happiness. You could tell it was him. This was the Leonardo you knew, the Leonardo you fell in love with. Leo? Hey, Leonardo smiled. You wanted to run over and hug him, but refrained yourself from doing so. At this point, you still weren't sure if this was all going to work out or not. I take it you found the Ancient One, you asked. You could say that, he replied with a slight chuckle. There was a small pause between you two for a few seconds. You and Leonardo said at the same time. You first. Leonardo took a breath before he started to speak. Listen, I want to say how sorry I am for how I've been treating you these past few months. I should have opened up more to you about it, but instead I closed myself off to you and everyone else. And you were right. I can't change what happened back there, and I need to accept that. It took me a while to realize how lucky I was to have someone like you in my life, and I blew it. If you want to break it off, I understand. You deserve someone so much better than me. There was a brief moment of silence between you two. You idiot, he choked as you felt a tear run down your face. Before Leonardo could say anything, you ran up to him, wrapped your arms around his neck. At first, Leonardo was surprised, but returned the hug by wrapping his arms around your waist and back. The hug lasted a couple of minutes until you pulled away to face him. Leo, I'm sorry about that argument we had before you left, and you stopped when you felt Leonardo's finger on your lips. No. I knew you were trying to help, but I was just too stubborn at the time to let you do so. My question for you is, do you forgive me? Of course I do. And I love you so much, you replied with a few tears running down your face. Leonardo wiped the tears away. I love you too. Then your lips met for the first time in what feels like forever. Leonardo wrapped his arms tightly around you again when you did the same. Both your lips parted for a brief second, then connected again, only making the kiss deeper. You felt Leonardo's tongue brush against your own a couple times, and did the same for him as well. You couldn't always remember the last thing you shared a moment with, but just something like this. Eventually, you two parted, slightly panting from the intense lip lock. Oh, one more thing, Leonardo said as he reached down to the side of his belt and pulled out a small white box tied with a blue ribbon. I know it's a little late, but happy anniversary. You gasped a little bit. You and Leonardo's anniversary didn't come to mind at some point, but you didn't think you would return, let alone remember it. I can't believe you remembered. How could I forget? Leonardo asked as he handed you the box. You removed the ribbon and opened it. Inside was a pair of cherry blossom hair clips. I saw these and I thought of you. Leo, thank you. They're beautiful. Exactly, Leonardo whispered before he gave you a kiss on the cheek, causing you to blush. And maybe after my brothers and I get the face fixed up a little bit. Do you want to celebrate? Sure. From that day forward, not only were you and Leonardo back together, but the separation brought you two closer than ever.